It's the third year in a row, you know the drill. Let's go. Sawadee tout kon, je m'appelle Axel and I'm a French woman living in Bangkok, Thailand. And most importantly, Happy New Year! This year again, we're here for the third installment of me ranking every show I've watched this year. And it sadly also might be the last one as YouTube keep not promoting my videos and I'm getting tired. Anyways, this year was personally really good for me. I've moved to Thailand like I dreamed of, and overall I've evolved in a direction that I'm really proud of. There's been less good moments, that's for sure, but for the most part, I'm the happiest I've been in the past 8 years. Also, I'm really glad to announce that compared to the 97 shows that I watched in 2021, I only watched about 70 shows this year. Progress! Anyways, let's get this started. As always, I will start by ranking the older shows that I watched in 2022 that won't be part of the final ranking. Crash Landing on You. This is just such a good show. It has it all. The romance, the action, the interesting characters, the fun, the drama. I frankly don't see how anyone could dislike that show because it's just brilliant. Hua Jai Sila. Definitely my favorite lakorn with In Family We Trust. It contains all of the classic tropes while also managing to subvert pretty much all of them. And the acting was fabulous. I binge-watched the 27 episodes in less than a week because of how entertaining this was. Good Manager. This show was recommended to me by a friend over a year ago and goddamn was it a blast. It's the best enemies to lover, allies show that I've ever seen. The banter and the two male leads in general definitely carried the whole show and it was just insanely entertaining and fun to follow. Move to Heaven. So this show was the start of me binging K-dramas that are graded 9 out of 10 or above on my drama lists. And yeah, this was a really nice show. I really enjoyed the main character, but in my opinion, I think it could have given me a little more to deserve that 9 out of 10. Naviera. So when I signed up for this show, I didn't know it had an Alzheimer's storyline, which is a highly sensitive topic for me as my own grandma suffered from it before she passed away in 2015. But this was still a wonderful show. It could have been slightly shorter in my opinion, which is something I believe about most shows, but the friendship between these two men and the non-sensational portrayal of Alzheimer really touched me. The Bad Kids. Watch this on a recommendation from a mutual on my drama list, and it's a very well done show with excellent kid actors. I would have liked a little more from the story and its conclusion though. It's Okay Not to Be Okay. Another K-drama rated 9 out of 10, and I quite enjoyed this one. The setting in a mental hospital worked great for me, and the acting was amazing. I'm still fascinated by the eyes of the female lead. She hypnotized me during the whole show for real. Sadly, I didn't like her character though, not just because she's mean, which I know is the whole point, but because I simply felt like she was low-key abusive towards the male leads. This was still a very enjoyable show though. Sleepless Society 2 Pillows. This is a very intense and interesting show that brought some new things to the table in terms of Thai dramas. Insomnia from the same set of series is far better in my opinion, but it was still a solid watch. Put Your Head on My Shoulder. This show changed my opinion on New Titipoom and made me see him more as male lead material. This was a cute show, although very basic and forgettable. I also wanted so much more from the Shimon and Gigi reunion. Their secondary ship should have been explored far more as they had a more interesting story than the main one in my opinion. Voice in the Rain. This is a beautifully directed rom-com, but sadly I just thought it was too long and slow to be truly impactful. Also, the characters were high-key boring, sorry to say. I do want to see more of both main lead actors though. Clean House. So Clean House is a 2014 high school show that largely focuses on movie making and friendship. It has a very low budget and is not revolutionary in any way, but not only is the cast full of now incredibly popular actors such as Jailer, Plumpurim, and Fiat Pataton, but the first episode is literally the funniest shit I've ever seen. Game Saneha. This is a very classic lakorn that I don't really love nor hate, but one thing I appreciated was the slight role reversal between the female lead who gets to be the mean one, while the male lead is the devoted one for once. Yuta Khan. I watched this show because I had seen years ago clips of it gone completely viral on YouTube and it was okay. Extremely forgettable and definitely far from by Fern's best performance. I just think the plot had far better potential than what was actually delivered. The Crown Princess. I finally decided to watch a show with Yaya and Nadesh as leads, and this was okay. After watching Crash Landing on You, the comparison was just undeniable, and Crash Landing definitely did an infinitely better job. No shade, but this was pretty boring, and I actually surprisingly didn't love Yaya's acting. Kiss Me. So after watching Full House with the same pairing and hearing good things, I finally decided to watch this Thai classic. And yeah, I didn't like it. The male lead sucked and I hated how it treated the female leads. While there are lovable moments, mostly family and friendship oriented ones, I genuinely hated this shit. Rarang Phai. This is by far the most infuriating lacorn I've ever seen because its male lead is totally insufferable. The lack of agency from the female lead made my skin crawl, and in my opinion the whole story was kinda dumb, but there was no denying the crazy chemistry between the male leads as well as the great acting demonstrated. Shows I'm still currently watching. Gap. For the first official Thai GL, I'm so happy to see it get the hype it deserves, and it makes me hopeful for the future of GL. That being said, while this is an enjoyable show, I think it's equal to a run-of-the-mill BL show that would probably be produced by a similar mediocre company. And I can't wait for GL to get backed up by extremely talented directors and screenwriters so we can start getting to the really good stuff. Midnight Motel. This was the #1 show I was excited for in 2022, and it started airing 3 days before the end of the year. And yeah, just like expected, it's fucking amazing and unlike any other Thai drama ever released. It has this indie movie quality with gorgeous cinematography, performances that are perfectly just right, and a crisp sound quality with an amazing soundtrack. I'm obsessed, and the short form of this show, which you all know I always tend to prefer, means it's definitely going to be an ultimate favorite for years to come. My School President. This was a show I found cute since the mock trailer, notably thanks to its similarity with Lovesick, which is a favorite of mine, and yeah, it's great. It is basic and for that will never be an ultimate favorite, but they make it quirky enough to make it interesting. And I also like the dual POVs that we have that kinda remind me of Theory of Love, another ultimate fave of mine. 10 Years Ticket. I'm truly so blessed on Wednesdays and Thursdays because I get 2 shows with Of Jung Pun. We love to see it. Obviously, I was also hugely excited for this show, and so far it's been nothing short of amazing. It has great characters that are all endearing in their own ways, and a very strong story that is neither rushed nor boring. I love everything about this, and frankly, after Midnight Motel, this is really the show I'm the most looking forward to every week, and not just because of Off. The Warp Effect. This was a show I was quite looking forward to as a Thai show that discusses sex so openly and for so many different situations, which has quite literally never been heard of before. And it's great. It's a very fun show with enticing characters, but for now I'm waiting to see more vulnerabilities and lessons from these stories before I can make a more definitive judgment on it. Never Let Me Go. Another one of the shows I was the most looking forward to in 2022 because gmmtv really made me wait for all of my faves. This is so far extremely well executed and I'm loving the different characters' dynamics and societal critique. All I'm gonna need is a little more vulnerability on the part of the characters so I can really fall in love with them as the character development focused queen that I am, but overall I'm having an amazing time. The Amero Paradox. I don't really know what prompted me to add this show on my plan to watch list months ago, but yeah, it's a pretty okay show. Might win me over more later on, and at least it has a pretty interesting and different plot. And now, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary people, it is time for my official 22 dramas ranking. Check out. I watched this show because I sort of liked the special episode, but gosh, was this the most terrible show I've watched in a while. 9 is truly the most unlikable male lead I've ever seen. The relationship is so toxic I spent my whole watch insanely frustrated, and the writing and production honestly suck. Truly a waste of my time. The Tuxedo. This show was so terrible I spent the first couple of episodes cringing, but then I started seeing the potential for like a millisecond before getting let down once more. This could have been a great story of mental health about an abusive family who pushes a guy to never go outside, but this is just one of the worst executions I've honestly seen in my life. Once again, this is a show I watched when I was bored because of the My Drama List comments that made it sound good, But it also was a waste of my time because the show ends exactly how it started. There is no evolution or growth, and honestly it was quite boring. Cutie Pie. I had no intention to watch this show, but the trailer actually lured me in, which is why it was so disappointing to see the plot get lost after a few episodes, only to be replaced by mindless sex scenes. Very mediocre. Astrophile. Guess who I watched this for? Yep, Av Jumpon as always. And I'm super sad to say it's actually one of my least favorite roles of his because this show was just boring. The characters bland as hell except for Nabdao and the stakes so low I just didn't care for it whatsoever. Unforgotten Night. Just like I originally thought, this was pretty unremarkable. It still managed to be better than I thought it would, and it was an entertaining show to watch, but it just didn't create any emotional connection for its viewers and was overall very forgettable. Senpai, I'm in love. I spent the first episode crushing hard on the male lead, but this show lost me after that. It's pretty boring and forgettable and lacked the usual silly charm that Japanese BLs usually have. Mr. Unlucky has no choice but to kiss. Another show I binged one day. I was extremely bored and yeah, it's a show. Okay, but pretty mediocre. Tinted with You. I decided to give this one a second chance when I was also bored and had nothing to watch. And while it had some good moments and I loved the idea of an OT3, I can barely remember anything from this show, which tells me everything I need to know. The 8.2 second rule. Another victim of my bored random binging, and this was fine. Not long or deep enough to make me connect with it though. Minato Corn Laundry. This was a show I could have loved a lot more if it wasn't so unnecessarily long and the age gap wasn't so problematic. It had good moments and good themes, but it should have been only 8 episodes and the high school student should have been a university student. Gen Y 2. Gen Y was already a quite unremarkable show, carried by its cast for which I've always had an attachment since 2 Moons. The sequel was even more useless, but not horrible either. It had good moments, but was really forgettable in the long run. You're My Sky. This show was the biggest waste of a great production. It's way too slow and boring. The direction makes the actors look like they can't act with their excruciatingly slow delivery of lines, and the ships, who started really well, weren't satisfying to watch come together at all. It's overall very forgettable and mediocre show which sucks considering its huge potential. Roommates of Pungduck 304. I didn't plan on watching this show, but followers recommended it to me, so I gave it a try. It was cute, but didn't capture my heart in the way I thought it would based on the description others made of it. The Love Proposal. This Lacorn has one of the only healthy main ships in all of Lacorn history, but all of that was built on the suffering of its queer main character, which really left a bitter taste in my mouth. God's Favor. I binged this show during one of my bored days and it was really quirky and fun, included a women loving women ship in a J-drama which is literally unheard of, but it was honestly really basic because I remember absolutely nothing from it. Sing Again. This show was one of the most frustrating I watched this year because its potential was great, I liked its entire cast, and it was very different from other Thai dramas, but it went for an overly complicated love triangle, secret twins, and was way too long for its own good. Also, Sun was the only main character that was remotely likable in my eyes. Remember Me. This is another show I had no desire to watch, but then I liked the vibe of the trailer and I also falsely believed it would be a mini-series like the yearbook, but this was too damn long and slow. It didn't even finish airing on time for this video, but I know the last episode won't change my mind, so I'll say this. Sweet intentions and potential, but a very lackluster execution. The Love of Winter. I barely have any memory of this one, which says a lot, but I'd say it was cute. Plus and minus. I also don't remember this one whatsoever, which is weird because it was quite popular and I actually really enjoyed it, but it's still very basic so I can't rank it any higher. Bad Romeo. This show's next title should be Frustrating. I almost dropped this show about 5 times because of how insanely annoying it was at times. It was way too slow for me and should have been only 13 or 14 episodes in my opinion. The chemistry and acting between Mario and Yaya was incredible though, and the only thing that kept me watching. Cupid's Last Wish. I hadn't planned on watching this show live, but nothing was airing at the time and I was bored, so I decided to give it a try. And yeah, it was better than I thought. The story concept of traveling through Thailand paired with the gorgeous landscapes it offered was great. But honestly, that was kinda it. The characters and the relationships were unremarkable, and the story was overall pretty forgettable. Something in My Room. Another show I didn't plan on watching, but if we have learned anything by now, is that I give shows second chances all the time. This was quite slow and uneventful, but the last scene made me sob like a baby. So that's something. Star in My Mind. Great chemistry and that was a very lovable main character, but this was so basic and forgettable. I also dislike Hype insanely for his uncertainty, and in my opinion, the whole show could have been solved in one episode. You Are My Heartbeat. This was everything My Ambulance wanted to be, but actually enjoyable. I knocked the grade down though because I forgot about this show as soon as I finished watching it, and it was still quite basic and nothing to write home about. Wannabe. As a certified non-Shannon simp, I love this role for how different it was for him and how surprisingly great at rapping he was. That being said, the execution of the show isn't great. Pun is a hard character to love, but Wang, his enemy, is also extremely annoying, and in my opinion, a lot more interesting things could have happened. I do appreciate this show a lot for being unlike any other Thai dramas I've seen though. Enchanté. While Act You were a lovely ship, the rest of the show was kinda messy, especially the Enchanté storyline. I know I've said this 50 times today, but it was quite forgettable. The Player. This was characteristic of most BJoJo shows with an ensemble cast, extremely entertaining, but the execution and writing are far from perfect, and in my opinion it's been one of his weaker shows from the last couple of years. Still really enjoyed it though. Never Too Late. This was an enjoyable, entertaining show that delivered great performances, but sadly I only connected with 2 out of 5 of the stories, so it was hard for me to be too invested. It's still definitely a good show though. The Three Gentle Bros. I had very low expectations for this show, but it actually was pretty nice. Sadly, like most of Kuekazi's shows, it stays very surface level, and I wish the mom would have had more accountability for being such a tyrant, but I did enjoy myself quite a lot and liked all 3 ships. 180 Degrees Longitude Passes Through Us. This clearly presented itself as the new I Told Sunset About You, very cinematographic, slow and theatrical. But sadly the plot was much emptier than I Told Sunset About You, and the show could have benefited greatly from cutting out 2 episodes and tightening its storytelling. The performances and message of the show were great though, but for me it was honestly kinda hard to fully connect with this show because of its overtly long and complicated dialogues and slow pace. Good, but could have been way better. Dear Doctor, I'm Coming for Your Soul. While this was a pretty slow show to watch live as each episode aired, I honestly really enjoyed it. The chemistry and acting were great, and while it would have benefited from being shorter, which I think about most shows, it was definitely a good, well-executed series. Takara and Amagi. This was honestly really cute. It explored the theme of first love and hidden relationships in high school well, while remaining quirky and fun. I don't have much negative to say about this show, but its importance is such that I can't rank it any higher. Remember 15. This is the kind of Thai shows that make me excited with how daring and interesting they are. While the execution was far from perfect and a bit messy, this was honestly still really good. The message became crystal clear with the last quote of the show, and the performances were honestly really good for the most part. Especially coming from Z, who finally had a challenging role I liked him in. And by I mean I hated his character more than anything, but he was really, really good at portraying him. Catch Me Baby. I was intrigued by this show's synopsis and randomly decided to watch it, and I'm so glad I did. They managed to keep a gimmick I thought would only last 1 episode for almost the whole length of the show, and the execution was very fun and fresh. This is a different but easily enjoyable show, and I'm honestly glad it exists. Sky in Your Heart. Every year I have that one mediocre show that everyone is meh about, but I love. And this year is this one. I know I came in biased since Meg Jirakit is one of my favorite actors, but this was honestly such a cute, enjoyable show in a setting I haven't gotten bored of yet. My Secret Love. This show was one of the biggest surprises for me this year since I watched it because, you guessed it, I was bored and nothing was airing. but it actually managed to take a very basic BL that should be like every other university ones, yet managed to make it quirky and interesting enough that I stayed hooked the whole time. I also surprisingly liked all 4 ships a lot, when usually only one can truly capture my heart. Honestly, a really fun show, even though not revolutionary at all. Good Old Days. Another show I hadn't planned on watching, but the new trailer convinced me, especially since I love most of the cast. And honestly, I really enjoyed it. While not all stories convinced me equally, it's very rare to see a romantic series that actually tackles the fear of growing up every character has throughout the show. It went way deeper than other romances, also tackling family issues, and honestly it felt really relatable on that aspect. Mama Gogo. Another Pijojo ensemble cast show, one I enjoyed more, mostly due to its badass main female character Annie, whom I honestly adored. And this was such a fun, silly show with the theme of found family, which I always am a sucker for. And while it's not particularly remarkable, it's just so enjoyable, I have nothing bad to say about it. Paint with Love. This show was so different than any other BL shows. It has more of a La Corne vibe, and I really enjoyed it. The dynamics between the ships are great, especially considering how unexpected they both were, and it was just really fun. A critique would be that it was too long in my opinion and should have been only 10 or 8 episodes because the execution became messier as the episodes passed by. Blooming. This was a basic BL that managed to stand out through its theme of insecurity and fatphobia, and it was the first time I saw an ex-fat character on screen not be fatphobic and still criticize society's ignorance. The biggest flaw of this show in my opinion was that the love interest was definitely kinda basic and boring, but apart from that, it was a really nice show. To My Star 2 or Untold Stories. I watched this show ignoring the warning of people who told me it was quite depressing, and I'm so glad I did. Because I can finally say that. Finally, a sequel done right! This was very angsty, so not for everyone, but the execution, cinematography, and writing were on point, and most of all respected the original show. The writers took pre-existing issues from the first season and developed them instead of pulling a cheating storyline out of thin air like every other BL sequel does. It just felt like, for once, writers knew, loved, and respected their characters, and I enjoyed this tremendously. Triage. So I binged this show in under 24 hours and I enjoyed it greatly. It's very entertaining, extremely enjoyable to follow, and not boring for even 1 minute. It was also very beautiful to see T and Tae from 2 Moons finally able to have their ship happen. It made me a bit nostalgic, not gonna lie. But sadly, just like Manner of Death, the characters didn't go deep enough in my opinion, and as a character-focused girly, I couldn't rank this show higher. Still one of my favorites of the year though. Ragdio. I went into this show with expectations on the ground and I absolutely loved it. This BL sitcom worked surprisingly well with extremely fun characters, a solid storyline, and great banter and chemistry. This is just such a fun, feel-good show to watch, and I honestly loved it so much. The Eclipse. Even though the execution of this show wasn't perfect, especially the last 2 episodes, this was such a lovely show. I especially appreciated the BL show that talks about the struggle to come out its character's face, which made Ag an extremely relatable and interesting character to me. It was also great to see Houghton in a great role for once, and the acting and chemistry were beyond amazing. I think the biggest issue of this show is that while the love story is developed just great, the school plot takes a huge backseat and the overall story suffers because of it. But still, it was one of my favorites of the year. Semantic Error. I don't think I need to say much about this show since it's so beloved, but it was just really well done. The editing and story are quirky, the characters kinda cartoonish in their personalities, yet they still feel grounded in reality, and the chemistry was really great. This was such a fun time and definitely one of the best Korean BL shows, period. I Just Want to See You. This miniseries is everything I like in shows. Short, quiet, character-focused, and quirky. Also, it has my favorite trope of best friends to lovers, so what's not to love? This was just a pure pleasure to watch and oh so sweet. Old Fashioned Cupcake. I watched this show as it aired because the plot intrigued me, and it did not disappoint. Not only is it great to see a BL show that features older characters, but the fact that the main theme of the show isn't just a romance, but also Nozo's middle-age crisis, gave this short and efficient show a lot more depth by bringing up a lot of relatable issues. Such a pleasure to watch, and I know I'll rewatch this one many times. To Soar with Love. When I started To Soar with Love, I was fully expecting to witness the same terrible fate that queer characters always get in Lacorns, but I quickly realized that this show was different. Instead of using the bury your gays trope to create drama for the main straight couple, here the queer couple are the main characters, and even though the show is set in the 1920s, the society around them has to adapt to them and not the opposites. The story is extremely entertaining, the production quality much higher than other Lacorns, the acting incredible from everyone, and the characters were beyond incredibly lovable. Definitely an ultimate favorite of mine. My Ride. The context in which I watched My Ride, after months of waiting for it to be fully subbed, was it being the first show I watched after Not Me ended. And I honestly didn't want to watch anything after that, but I gave My Ride a chance because it looked very different from it. And it was. And while I came in expecting a mediocre, forgettable show, I found my new comfort show. This show made me fall in love with it by being quirky enough to compensate for its simpler plot, having lovely characters that could be boring but surprisingly weren't at all, and delivering one of the healthiest, cutest love stories I've seen in a while. I've already rewatched this show twice since then, and I couldn't recommend My Ride more. This show has soul. Don't let the subbing issue scare you, and I promise you giving this show a chance will be worth it. Extraordinary Attorney Woo. You know how I watched a bunch of K-dramas rated 9 out of 10 on my drama list this year? Well, this one was still airing while I started it, and it was great. K-dramas have this talent for making formulaic shows that are rarely boring and unenjoyable, and still making them stand out. This is just such a well-executed show with lovely characters, interesting cases, and great acting and writing. It just all worked really well. P.S. I Hate You. This show was by far one of the ones I was looking the most forward to this year, and it didn't disappoint. Be it the beyond incredible acting performances, especially from Jai Blow Shampoo and Pai Chayanit, the beautiful cinematography, the complex but very compelling characters, and the hard-hitting story, I loved almost everything about this, and was so happy to see it at least be successful in Thailand. I would highly recommend it, especially as a female-led series. The Revenge. This show was actually my first completed watch of the year and an instant favorite. Not only is it gorgeous visually, has an insane cast and beyond excellent acting, but this had one of the best writing I've witnessed from a Thai drama. This manages to be a story full of plot twists and intense suspense, but also develop its characters super well. We spent the first half of the show not even knowing if we can trust the main fucking character. And while it's a very fucked up graphic show, it still managed to balance it with a very solid and beautiful romance. This show is for me an ultimate proof of the kind of incredible quality Thai dramas can offer, and it is definitely in my top 10 favorite Thai dramas of all time. If you watch a show from this ranking, let it be this one. I'd love it if more people gave more chances to non-BL Thai dramas because they absolutely deserve it. Not me. And now for the number one show, no one is surprised, it's not me of course. I have a full 50 minutes video on this life-changing show, so I'll try to keep it short, but this show means the most to me in the entire world. Never before have I felt so much for a series, cried so much over a finale, gotten attached so fast to characters, and been so blown away by the incredible acting and chemistry of two ships. Not Me isn't perfect, but as I've said before, it's the most important Thai drama ever released in terms of message and theme. And is lovable in a way no other show has been to me before and probably will ever be. That show has changed my life, and I know that there will never be another show with such an intense watching experience in my life. And I'm glad. Despite its sabotage by gmmtv and the entertainment industry as a whole, despite it not getting enough of the recognition it deserved, I'm glad it was with Afghan. I'm glad it was with so many of my already favorite actors. I'm glad it was directed by Pinucci. I know an occasion like this will never come again, and I'm glad that I was able to savor every single second of this beyond incredible show. So this was it for my third installment of my yearly ranking. I hope you liked it. This year has been such a roller coaster for me, and in a way it's leaving me with more questions that I started it with. But I gotta say, I'm so glad I took the leap and moved to Thailand like I had been dreaming of for 5 years. And I'm really proud of myself for going through with it as well. Anyways, I will be looking forward to your comments. I'll see you next time and have a great day.